Om Shri Sairam. Offering myself at Bhagwan's lotus feet. Dear brothers and sisters, Sairam. It is indeed a great blessing to talk about the Lord on this wonderful occasion. What I thought I should speak today is something that has actually set me thinking a few months ago. I'm sure all of us would have seen that wonderful letter written by Swami to his students. It is essentially a prayer which Swami wrote to his students, and the prayer goes something like this: O Lord, take my love and let it flow in fullness for devotion to Thee. O Lord, take my hands and let them work incessantly for Thee. O Lord, take my soul and let me merged in one with Thee. O Lord, take my mind and hands, take my mind and thoughts and let them be in tune with Thee. O Lord, take my everything and let me be an instrument to work. Now when I was going over this prayer, what struck me is this last line. Swami chose the last line of this prayer to be an instrument. So now if you have to ask, what is it to be an instrument to work for God? Or what is it to be an instrument? For example, let's take a pen or a knife. All of us know that all that exists in this world, all that exists in this universe is only God. Now when we come to this specific knife, what is happening? This knife has the inherent divinity in it. To that got added one particular form, and thus it becomes an instrument. Now same is the case with so-called lifeless things. Now what is the problem with this particular knife? Two things happen. One, the knife cannot work on its own. Second, the knife cannot refine its ways and means. It cannot get better than what it was doing earlier. So there was this primary school boy who was passing out from his MTech. He had studied in Puttaparthi for almost 22 years. So in Premabandham, Swami was collecting letters from the boys on their last few days of the summer vacation, and Swami is asking each boy as to how many years he had spent in Swami's institutions. So one boy said 7 years, another boy said 9 years, and this boy, this primary school boy who studied from primary school and is graduating from MTech, it almost spent like 22 years, 22, 23 years. So he is giving that letter to Swami, and he very proudly said, Swami, I have been with you for 23 years. Swami gave a big smile and everybody said, oh my God, he has spent so long with Swami. Swami gave a big smile, and in the round hall, just next to the Jula hall in the Premabandham, there was this throne, big throne. Swami points to the throne and says, this throne has been around for 25 years. And Swami gave a big smile. So what essentially Swami is telling us through this is, how does it matter for an instrument, a lifeless instrument, to be in God's hand? However long it may be, it will remain to be what it is. Now, as I said, this lifeless instrument has an issue. It cannot do things on its own. It cannot refine its ways. It can't get better than what it was. Now, what do we do to solve this issue? So there is this divinity. To this divinity, God added a form, and thus this lifeless instrument was born. Now, nature has beautifully created another instrument to solve these two issues of this lifeless instrument. So in between this divinity and the so-called body, another instrument called Antakarana is brought in. In Sanskrit it is called Antakarana. In our colloquial language, because of lack of words, we use the word called mind in English, but Antakarana is a lot more broader than this particular word called mind. Now this Antakarana is brought in to solve these two issues. One, it can think and act on its own. Two, it can get better in whatever it is doing. Now this Antakarana, to ensure that this criteria is met, there are three divisions within this Antakarana. Now what are the things that instrument should do to achieve these two objectives? One, it should first feel that it is an individual instrument, that it has its existence. So one is that individual identity. And second, it should remember all that it was doing earlier, so that it can get better and better in what it is doing. So second is a repository of all its actions. And third, it needs to effectively function day in and day out to ensure that the two objectives are met. So these three, now that these three are brought in, and now that the form also has to sustain this act of working on its own, getting refined on its own, another external instruments are added to this form. Now what are those external instruments that are added to this form? Swami says that external instrument are the 5 Jnanendriyas and 5 Karmendriyas. Those are essentially the 5 senses and 5 extended senses. So eyes, ears, nose, mouth, tongue and skin, 5 senses, and external senses are hands, legs and the excretory instruments. Now this 5 and 5, 10 are added, and using these instruments the body is able to work on its own. So this solves the objectives that we have set forth with. The instrument can work on its own. Second, the instrument can refine itself. Now this combination, as Swami says in a discourse, this combination of machinery gives rise to an animal or pashu or mruga. So if you take an animal, it is able to work on its own. It is able to get better in whatever it is doing. So for example, if a leopard is hunting, it can hunt better and it can hunt on its own. Now does this solve the issue? of being an instrument? No. Why? Because even though this instrument is able to do work on its own, even though it is able to refine itself, it cannot differentiate between what is good and what is bad. That ability to differentiate between what is good and what is bad is lacking in this second set of machinery. Now, this ability to think what is good and what is bad, or what is right or what is wrong, or what is beneficial, what is not beneficial, this ability to discriminate is added to this antakarana. So now this antakarana has 4 elements. One is ahankara, the individual identity. Second, chitta, the repository of all information. Third, manas, which is effectively discharging day-to-day duties. And fourth is this discriminatory power called buddhi. This is the differentiating factor between an animal and human. The minute this fourth element is added to this antakarana, we have a human. So in human we have divinity plus 4 components of antakarana plus senses plus body is equal to human. In this machinery called Pashu, which is a combination of divinity plus ahankara, chitta, manas plus senses plus body, as we discussed, there is no ability to differentiate, there is no ability to discriminate. When Swami was returning from Horsley Hills after staying for almost a fortnight, the cars were ready and Swami was almost about to get into the vehicle. Almost everybody, all the devotees are seated and they are waiting for Swami to sit so that the convoy can start. So Swami asks everybody to sit, and then Swami walks behind the Horsley building, and Kasturi Garu and Geeta Mohan Rao Garu, she was a small girl, they follow stealthily behind Swami, and Swami goes behind the building, and Kasturi Garu and this small little girl are there hiding behind a bush and they are observing as to what Swami is doing. So Swami goes to the 2 bulls which are tied behind that building. What were these bulls doing all these days? This entire fortnight, these bulls were carrying water from below to the top of the hill. Every morning they would go down and they would carry water. They would do some 15 to 20 sorties for fetching water up the hill. So Swami is kind of instructing them as to what? Swami tells them that, good, I am very pleased with you. Continue your sadhana. And it ends beautifully, almost saying that this will allow you to have the blessing of discrimination. So essentially, Swami is blessing them that eventually this sadhana would allow them to be bestowed with discrimination. Such is the blessing that a human has. Human is the only creature who is endowed with this buddhi along with the other 3 components of antakarana. So what does human compose of? Divinity plus ahankara, chitta, manas plus the discriminatory power, buddhi, plus the 5 Jnanendriyas and 5 Karmendriyas plus the body. This complete machinery is human. Now, what is the issue in this? This buddhi, discriminatory power, Swami says, is like a mirror, a perfect mirror. This mirror, what does it do? It reflects, it takes the light of the divinity, it reflects that light, and that reflected light is thrown upon mind, manas, then chitta and ahankara. The reflected light is, imagine you have divinity and then buddhi. So that divinity, Atma, is reflecting its light into this mirror called buddhi, and this reflected light is being thrown upon on other 3 aspects, that is manas, and up beyond that is chitta, and beyond that is ahankara. So what essentially happens is the reflected light falls more on manas and little lesser on chitta and lot more lesser on ahankara, which means the buddhi can easily control manas. It becomes little difficult to control chitta and almost extremely difficult to control this ahankara or the individual identity. So essentially, for this buddhi to function effectively, it should be able to reflect the light of Atma onto these 3. Now, will it be able to reflect always effectively? Will it be able to reflect always without any impediment? May not be. Now, will the buddhi be able to reflect the light of divinity without any impediments under all circumstances? No, not possible. Why? Because there are 3 problems that might arise. As Swami says, buddhi is a perfect mirror. It reflects the light of Atma onto the 3 elements. Now, what are the 3 problems that might arise? Imagine this mirror is all dirty and murky. What happens? It cannot reflect the light fully. Now, where does this dirt and muck come from? Swami says this dirt and muck can be called as mala, which is nothing but the mistakes that have been done over lifetimes. This is coming from chitta. Chitta is nothing but, as we discussed, the repository of all the actions, all the thoughts that we have had from lifetimes. From there, these impurities are coming and they are sitting on top of this mirror and making this mirror murky. So that is mala. Now, how do we remove this mala? Swami says the easiest way to remove mala is through food. Restrictions on food. Swami beautifully terms that past is past. Whenever you take food, you ensure that the food is pure. Food should have patra shuddhi, paka shuddhi, padartha shuddhi. Food should be cooked in a proper vessel. Food should be cooked by a person with good thinking, and food should be cooked with unadulterated items. Paka shuddhi, padartha shuddhi, and patra shuddhi. Now, to ensure that food is meeting all these criteria of purity all the time is very difficult. So Swami beautifully says, instead of doing all these checks, do a simple thing. Whenever you take food, whenever you consume food, before that make sure that you offer this food to God. You offer this food as Naivedyam to God. And Swami says that act takes away the impurities in food. The impurities that are not visible to the naked eye, those are taken away, and the food is returned back as prasadam. Naivedya becomes prasadam, and when prasada is consumed, it ensures that not more dirt is added, and eventually, slowly, steadily, this proper food begins to clear even the muck that has been concentrating on this mirror. Now, the first problem we discussed, there can be dirt on this mirror. Now imagine this mirror is continuously shaking. It is not steady, it keeps shaking. It is not steady, it shakes one side, it shakes up, it shakes down. So if this shake is happening, the light of the Atma, the light of divinity, is not reflected constantly on the other three elements. Now this continuous shake, Swami calls it as, or the Upanishads calls it as vikshepa, unsteadiness, fickleness. This is the problem of manas, the manas component. It is not steady. One time it thinks of food, other time it thinks of office, other time it thinks of tuition, other time it thinks of money, other time it thinks of friends, other time it thinks of enemies, other time it thinks of iPhone, other time it thinks of Netflix, Amazon. It runs from object to object to object, not steady. We sit for meditation for 1 minute, 2 minutes, and then the mind goes ascent and the mind runs everywhere. All of us have faced this problem. The unsteadiness of the mind, vikshepa. This mirror is continuously shaking. And how do we overcome this problem of vikshepa? Swami says the easiest way to overcome this problem of vikshepa is devotion, or 9 forms of devotion. Every day, spend some time, few minutes of your day, either of the 9 forms, in any one of the 9 forms of devotion. Those 9 forms of devotion are well known to us. Shravanam, hear about God's glory. Kirtanam, either sing about God's glory. Namasmaranam, chant His name. Padasevanam, serve. Vandanam, worship. Archanam, do that puja. Dasyam, offer everything, servitude. Satyam, make friendship with God. Atmanivedana, offer yourself to God. In either of these, in any of these 9 forms, spend few minutes of your day, and slowly and steadily this vikshepa of mind reduces. So this is the second problem of this mirror. And imagine the mirror is not shaky, the mirror doesn't have any dirt now. But imagine a scenario where this mirror is completely covered by a thick cloth. Completely covered by a thick cloth. Will it be able to reflect the light? It cannot. Now what is the thick cloth? This thick cloth, Swami says, this is called as avarna. This thick cloth is the individuality, or that ahankara. I am the body, I am this, I am RanganathaRaju, I am so and so, I am so and so. That individuality, that ahankara, that is creating this thick cloth. It is thick because it is not easy to be removed. It needs a lot of effort. And Swami says almost every living being suffers with this illusory identity. The easiest way to overcome this problem of avarna, as Swami says, is love. Love ensures slowly and steadily, it ensures that this thick cloth of individual identity, which in turn gives rise to a lot of other undesirable qualities, are slowly and steadily cleansed through love. Swami says love can be like 3 levels. One imagine a light bulb within a room. That light is limited to the room. Whoever enters into the room, they are all able to see the objects. Outside it's all pitch dark. Now this is a selfish love. Swami calls it a selfish love, where your love is concentrated only to those that you feel belong to you, that are yours. Now there are others, there is second level of love, which is like the moonlight. It is spread across, but it is not very clear. You cannot see objects very clearly. Yes, there is some amount of light, but there is no clarity on what exactly is on the ground. Is it a rope? Is it a snake? We do not know in the moonlight. This is a little better love, which is more for transactions. Now, little higher, and which is far better, is the selfless love. Swami says that love is like the sunlight. That sunlight glows everywhere. There is no distinction between a forest, a sea, a city, a village, an animal, or a bird, a creeper. No distinction. It is same and steady on everyone. Swami says, when love moves from this selfish level to the selfless level, this ahankara is slowly and steadily is removed. So thus, the three problems that arise because of the three components that are present along with buddhi are mala, vikshepa, avarna. Mala can be overcome through purity of food. Vikshepa can be overcome through 9 forms of devotion, and avarna can be overcome through pure love. Now, we are talking about this mirror called buddhi that is reflecting the light upon the other 3 elements. But what essentially is the components of this buddhi? What are the 3 or 4 things that make buddhi the mirror that it is? Now this is a great discussion even in Upanishads, in Puranas, in Itihasas. Yama describes in Katha Upanishad buddhi as the charioteer, the mind as the reins, and the senses as the 5 horses. And Atma is the owner of that chariot. But what essentially constitutes this buddhi? This is a beautiful description, no doubt. But what exactly constitutes this buddhi? Swami in another discourse gives a breakup of this buddhi, which is also mentioned in our Upanishads. But Swami makes a little change. Swami makes buddhi into 4 or 5 different components. This buddhi, for an easy understanding, it is compared to a bird. Imagine a bird. The head of this bird is Shraddha. What is Shraddha? It is consistent interest. Why is it consistent? It is steadfast interest, consistent engagement and interest. Why is it? Shraddha has 2 components. One is asakti, second is sthiratva. So imagine, I am very interested in doing Swami's work. I want to attend bhajans. I like attending programs done by Sathya Sai organization or some spiritual organization. Now I go one day, and for next 4 or 5 days I take a break. Now suddenly one day I get up and I feel like writing a song on God, and I write for 4 or 5 hours, and then for next 1 month I take it. I don't feel like writing. Asakti is there, but there is no consistency, there is no sthiratva. That is not Shraddha. Now someone, imagine Swami talks of a beautiful story where a guru was giving satsang, And there was this old man who had been coming to this satsang for like almost 3 to 4 years without a single day of absence. One day this old man falls sick. He does not want to miss this satsang. So he wants to send his son for this satsang. Now he is little bit hesitant. He goes and asks this particular guru who is giving the satsang that, is it okay if I don't send my son? The guru asks him why. He says, I am a little scared that if my son attends this satsang, he might become a sannyasi. So the guru smiles and says, you have been coming here for 4 years. Even after coming for 4 years, have you turned into a sannyasi? No. Then why do you expect your son who would come for one day to turn into a sannyasi? Guru tells him, you have been consistent. You have been, the stiratva is there. But there is no asakti, there is no that interest, there is no that engagement which is making you as you are. So the head of the bird is compared to Shraddha. And the tail of the bird, which gives the balance to the entire shape of the bird. The flying of the bird is held steady with the tail. I'm sure all of us know that the tail in an aircraft is one of the most important components. The rear fan in the helicopter is the most important component. Without the rear fan, the helicopter would go in the opposite direction with the fans on the top. So it is that tail which gives balance to this entire flight of the bird. So this tail is yoga, or Swami says Indriya Nigraha, which is control on senses. And the two wings of the bird, one wing of the bird is called rhythm. Swami calls it as, in easy terminology, Swami says internal harmony of thought, word and deed. And other wing is Satyam, which is nothing but expression of this internal harmony through word, is Satyam. And the body of the bird is considered as Mahat Tattva, or the belief that Tattvamasi, I am that. These 5 components, that is the head Shraddha, the tail Indriya Nigraha, the wing Rhythm, another wing Satyam, and the body Mahat Tattva. These 5 together make this word called Buddhi. Now this Buddhi, since it is made up of these 5 elements, if it lacks even in any one of these, the entire system would get affected. Now, in our scriptures, in Ramayana, let's take Rama. Rama, the supreme self, divinity, Atma, where there is no difference between divinity, the manas, or chitta, or ahankara, or the buddhi. It's all same for him. The divinity is flowing through the senses, Rama, and his shadow is Lakshmana. Why I am saying his shadow? This Lakshmana lacks ahankara, or that individual identity. That ahankara is not there. So how do we know this? He says, for example, when Rama says, set up a Parnashala wherever you like, Lakshmana begins to cry saying, Lord, you are telling me that I should set up a Parnashala where I like. Where do I still exist? Where do I have my likes and dislikes? He begins to roll on the ground and cry. He says, Ramachandra, your likes are my likes. Your dislikes are my dislikes. That ahankara is not there. So he exists, but yet he is complete shadow of Rama. Without Rama, there is no Lakshmana. Without object, there is no shadow. So the complete shadow of Rama. And then in this discourse piece, let us listen to the discourse piece.
రాములను మేము చూడలేము.
We can't see Rama.
రామదాసుని ద్వారా మేము చూస్తున్నాము.
We could experience Rama through his
రామదాసుడు
servant.
ఒక పరిశుద్ధమైన అద్దం వంటి వాడు.
And the servant of
ఆ
Rama is like a pure
అద్దములోనే
mirror.
రామచంద్రుడిని మేము చూడగలుగుతున్నాము.
There in that mirror we see the reflection of Ramachandra.
కనుక దాసులు ఎట్లా ఉండాలంటే పవిత్రమైనటువంటి పరిశుద్ధమైన అద్దం వలె తయారు కావాలి.
A devotee should be like a pure mirror, clean mirror.
ఏ విధమైనటువంటి అహంకార ఆడంబరమైనటువంటి మాలిన్యం ఇందులో ప్రవేశించకూడదు.
There should not be any dirt of ego and pomp on clean mirror.
Here Swami says how perfect mirror is Hanuman. We'll play discourse this. We have heard Swami describing Hanuman as a perfect mirror which reflects the glory of Rama. As Swami says, when he went to Ravana, he talks about Dasoham Kosalindrasya, and that power of Rama is reflected through his actions, and he burns entire Lanka. So, in this case, Buddhi is pure. It is reflecting perfectly the light of Ramachandra on Manas, on Chitta, and on Ahankara. So, there is an individual element called Hanuman. He is reflecting Rama's glory. Now, let's take another example. We just spoke of the various components of Buddhi. The Asakti, Sthiratvam, then Satyam, Ritam, and Indriya Nigraha, and Tattvamasi, the Mahatattva. So let us take the case of Arjuna, who also is considered to be a perfect instrument. One day before starting the war, Krishna takes him out in the evening, and Swami beautifully describes in the evening as they are walking, Krishna shows a bird on the tree branch and says, "Look at that beautiful parrot, Arjuna." And Arjuna looks at it and says, "Oh my Lord, it's a beautiful parrot." And immediately Krishna says, "What is this, Arjuna? It is not a parrot, it is a crow. Look at the crow." Arjuna says, "Oh my Lord, it's a beautiful crow." And Krishna tells, "What is this, Arjuna? Have you lost your sight? It is neither a crow nor a parrot. It is actually a cuckoo. Look at it." And says, "Oh Lord, how beautiful is this cuckoo." Each time Krishna keeps changing the bird, and Arjuna keeps saying, "Oh Lord, how beautiful is that?" The particular word which Krishna mentions. Now Krishna asks, "What is this? Have you lost your individual sense of discrimination?" Arjuna tells him, "My Lord, whatever is your judgment, it is my judgment. Whatever you say, I follow. You say cuckoo, it is cuckoo for me. You say it is crow, it is crow for me. You say it is parrot, it is parrot for me. You say it is peacock, it is peacock for me. Because I don't have this likes and dislikes. I have no such individuality." And Krishna blesses him. And just the next day, next morning, Krishna takes him on the battlefield. And there, when he is accosted with those lakhs of relatives of his own, of his brothers and cousins, he is dumbfounded. He is stricken with grief. He comes out to Krishna and says, "Oh my Lord, I can't fight this battle. Please take me back." What is happening? Sthiratvam, which we just discussed as a part of Shraddha. He is not consistent. One point he says, "Whatever you do is my action." And just the next day, when Krishna rides into the battlefield, he says, "I cannot fight this battle." It is Krishna who actually rides him, and he says, "I can't fight this battle." Now he is exercising that individual likes and dislikes. There is no consistency. So let's take another example. Dhruva. Yes, this Dhruva has asakti. He is very deeply interested in Narayana. Then Sthiratvam, he has consistently did penance for months and years, and then he has this Indriya Nigra, complete control on senses, and he has that feeling that I am that Lord, that reflection of the Lord, the Tattvamasi. But when Narayana appears, he looks at Narayana and he says, "Oh Lord, I only want you." And Narayana does not grant him that wish. Why? Swami beautifully explains, because Dhruva lacks the rhythm that Swami explains, the consistency of thought, word and deed. Dhruva started his meditation seeking a seat on his father's lap. Now when Narayana appears in his presence, he is so enamored with the beauty and he says, I only want you. There is that inconsistency of the thought and the word. Narayana does not grant him the wish, and instead he blesses him with a long eternal life as the pole star. Now let's take another example called Vishwamitra, who is the creator of Gayatri, who is known for his deep interest, Shraddha, deep interest in spiritual practice. He has Asakti, he has Thiratvam, he has the unity of thought, word and deed. He is the creator of Gayatri, so that Mahatattvam is also there. But when Menaka appears in his presence, he loses control over his senses, and he for few months he lives a life of a householder with Menaka, and suddenly one day he realizes that I have lost my way, and then he comes back. Or when Vasishtha does not call him a Brahmarshi, he gets very angry, he gets wild, and where Vasishtha says, I cannot send you in a body to heaven, Vishwamitra jumps at the opportunity to prove his might, and he creates a parallel heaven, sending Trishankur to that universe, which ultimately crumbles. All these points of time, Vishwamitra was lacking that Indriya Nigraha, the control over senses. Another example, Durvasa Maharshi. Durvasa comes to Ambarisha, who is actually performing a great tapas, and he is ending it. He has to end the fast before a particular time. Just before that, Durvasa comes and he says, wait for me, I will come back. I will come back in the given stipulated time before that Muhurtam. He goes for a bath. Now Ambarisha, who has practiced this particular tapas for quite long, has to end it before this particular Muhurtam. But Durvasa has asked him to wait, and he also promised that he will come back before the particular Muhurta. Durvasa does not turn up. Ambarisha keeps waiting, and all the sages tell him that it is better that you break the fast before this particular time, otherwise your entire efforts would go waste. So all that Ambarisha does is he takes few drops of water as tirtham, just as a token of breaking the fast, and is waiting for Durvasa to arrive. Now Durvasa arrives after the stipulated time, and he gets wild, he is livid with Ambarisha, saying, how could you break before I come? And Ambarisha tries to reason with him that, Lord, you said you will come before the particular time, but you did not come. And Durvasa, in that fit of anger, he says, I have never said so. And strangely then the Vishnu's chakra appears and it starts chasing Durvasa. So Durvasa runs across, the story goes that he runs across kingdoms, he runs across worlds, he goes even to Vishnu, and Vishnu says, even I don't want to stop it, because it is only Ambarisha's pain that has actually created the Vishnu chakra, only he can stop it. So finally Durvasa comes back running to Ambarisha, holds his feet and says, please forgive me. What is the problem with this particular instrument here, instrument of divine ear? Here, our hero in the story, Durvasa, he had complete asakti, he had complete sthiratvam, he had complete control over his senses, he had the consistency of thought, word and deed, but he did not have that satyam. He did not express that consistency in word, and which was overpowered by that anger, which resulted in all these problems to him. Now, what is it to be God's instrument? I was once asking one of our senior brothers. He said one day Swami called him in the bhajan hall like this. So this senior brother jumped across over boys, and he went to Swami. Swami spoke to him for some time, and next day Swami called another boy like this. Since he was sitting somewhere in the middle, he has to jump over boys. He did not feel like jumping over boys, so he took a turn. He took a little turn which allowed him to come onto the path in the middle. He came on the path in the middle, came to Swami, and Swami gave a smile, and Swami asked him to go. He did not speak anything. This boy was a bit hurt. And after a few days, he catches hold of Swami's feet and says, Swami, please explain to me why is it that you are neglecting me? What is the mistake that I have done? Swami tells him, how did I call you? Did I call you like this or did I call you like this? Had I wanted you to not cross the boys, I would have called you like this. But I called you like this because I wanted you to jump over the boys and come. But yet you exercised your individual will and you came like this. Now this ability to ascertain the subtleties of God's command is only possible when the buddhi is completely bereft of any defects. When Shurpanaka is troubling Rama and Lakshmana and Sita, Rama does not, as Swami says, Rama does not tell Lakshmana to cut off her ears and nose. All that Rama does is he comes here and he points up to the sky and down to earth. And Lakshmana understands when it is pointed up, it is Akasha, which is Shruti. When it pointed to down earth, it is smell, which means it is Naka, nose. So nose and ears are cut off based on just that one signal. That is the ability of a perfect instrument. And that ability is ascertained, as Swami says, buddhi alone has the power to see things which is not possible for senses. Buddhi alone can see and sense things which is beyond mind. That is the capability of buddhi. Now it is up to each one of us to ascertain as to how perfect we are in being an instrument of God. And to end this talk, I have actually created in discussion with few of our brothers a set of 8 questions, and all that I request is use these 8 questions. There is no right or wrong. Out of 10 points, you can score yourself every day. You can use them as a review at the day end. Swami says to one of the senior devotee, when he says, Swami, I am doing a lot of spiritual practice. Swami asks him, what about inquiry, self-inquiry? He says, Swami, but I am doing spiritual practices. Swami tells him, spiritual practice only 30-35%. 60-65% is the self-inquiry. It is the self-review. The review of the self. How far have I progressed? That is what allows you to progress. So, as a submission, I have this 8 set of questions which can be used to review ourselves on a daily basis as to how good we are as an instrument of God. These questions can be attempted. Let's take 1 hour, one particular hour in a day, and attempt these questions. Let's just review our actions in one particular hour in a day. The first question is, how many times did I identify myself with Swami or God? Second, related to Mala, how many times did I offer food before consuming to God? Third, how many times did I express my love explicitly to Swami? This is related to Vikshepa. Fourth, related to Stiratvam, how many times did I engage with consistency in my spiritual practices? Fifth, what are my levels of interest during this engagement? This is related to Shraddha. How many times did I exercise control on my senses? This is sense control. Seventh question, how many times did I speak truth, which is related to Sathya? Eighth, and the most difficult, how many times did I ensure consistency between thought, word and deed? These 8 questions, we can measure our progress on a daily basis and rank ourselves. And it is revealing to each one of us as to how perfect instrument we are in the hands of the Lord. Thank you. Sairam.